All right, I wanted to do like a take two of this video, and I had a follower of mine comment on a video that I made talking about someone's post where they were talking about suicide and why we make such a big deal out of it when we work ourselves to death, or we are going down that path pretty much. So why is it a big deal? In my video, I stated that it's a big deal because it is an indicator of where society is going. I feel like with what's going on in today's world and all the issues, sure, there are good things going on in the world, but there are a lot of bad things too. And we just live in a very exploitative society. And I also think a lot of people with depression see it as well. And that's just the part that infuriates me as well, is because whenever I go out and I hear about people and I hear about their jobs, I hear about what they do, I just think to myself, like, okay, good, you're proud of something, but then you're exploiting someone in the process. And I see that, and they don't. For instance, salespeople. I fucking hate salespeople. I hate the fact that they go around trying to get as much money out of you to put in their pockets and their boss's pocket for a service that you really don't even need, or a service that you could get for less elsewhere. But it's because we're pitting one another against each other. Sorry. We are pitted against each other. Sorry. Brain fart. And that's the job market, right? Like, you get a higher paying job because you're fucking over someone else below you, and you think that person's beneath you, right? Granted, I could offer more perspective on this. This is just me being very general here. But I wanted to talk about my time in a mental health institution, because I spent a week there last year, and my follower talked about her experience. Her experiences. I'm not going to go too deep into that, because that's personal to them, and just want to respect privacy. But when I was there, they would take away basically all of your belongings except for your clothes and any clothes that you bring with you. So no jewelry, no games, no art supplies, nothing that you really like. Which, just, I understand it could be a danger, like you could choke yourself with a chain, but how the fuck am I going to choke myself with a chain? This thing would break before it ever constricts me, or before it ever chokes me. Like, how? Like, it's metal, sure, but my neck is strong. It will break. It will break this fucking thing. Pencils, sure, but I mean, that's painful, and you're supervised constantly. At the same time, when I was there, we were put with a bunch of people who were normal, at least in the sense that they could behave themselves and not get riled up. But then you have the other patients who are more violent and just lashing out at the other patients. And when I was there, the staff that they had just were not very good at handling it and containing those people, because they would just continue to offend and do the same shit and scare the other patients, to the point where they actually tried to, file paperwork to get themselves out of there. Even if there were consequences for doing that, they didn't feel safe in there. The patients in the mental health hospital that I was at did not feel safe. That's a problem. Also, not to mention the fact that you don't get really any physical exercise. I mean, they have a small gym in that facility, but I mean, it doesn't have any equipment. It's more just a basketball court, and you get to play basketball. I don't fucking like basketball. I like weightlifting. I mean, if you need people to supervise while you lift weights, okay, fine. But I feel like, in a way, just talking to people in general, whether it be online or in person, has helped a little bit. And at the same time, doing new things, like distracting myself, is also a good thing. But also just learning how to actually cope, find coping mechanisms to basically stay here, to be mentally here, mentally present, rather than going off on your own little tangents of negativity to the point where it actually becomes dangerous for you. Granted, I'm still learning that. But, you know, from my experience there in that mental health hospital, I don't feel like any one of them gave a shit. They were either not trained well enough, or they were exhausted and really should not have been working, at least in that profession. I could tell that the psychiatrist was apathetic just from the tone and the way that they were asking me questions. Like, I knew I could just lie to get out of there. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. That's an issue. But I mean, that place is also an issue in itself. But you know, I didn't get the sense that they really cared. I felt like the therapists cared, but it was more like just a group therapy session anyway. You didn't get one-on-one times with a therapist, so you're not as likely to open up in a group as you would be one-on-one with someone else. You know, I get maybe the group therapy session is to build trust with your therapist, so that way you can do a one-on-one, but that's even if they're available. Also, not to mention the fact that the food they give you is shit. It's highly processed shit, which I figure we would have learned by now, that your mental health, your overall well-being is tied to what you fucking eat. If you don't eat right, if you don't eat the appropriate foods, you will fucking suffer. You don't need processed foods when you are in a mental health institution. Why do they give them that? So, in addition to not having like anything to do in terms of exercise besides maybe playing basketball or soccer, which I don't really give a fuck about either one. In addition to not having anything to draw with, really. I mean, they allowed me a pen at one point to try and draw, but I mean, I wanted my pencils. And the pen itself was just like one of those little bendy pens that you really couldn't use as well. And yeah, you don't have your personal belongings, so you don't have anything that kind of makes you happy or, you know, gives you something to look at. You know, you don't really have a lot of visitation rights. I mean, I think you get a visit like once a day, once a week, maybe. I mean, granted, you're allowed times to get to call your, you know, your friends or family members, but that's pretty much it. And I agree with the follower in what she said, is that basically in a nutshell, you're taking someone who is at their lowest point or close to their lowest point, and you are throwing them in basically a box, a loony bin, and you're taking away everything that makes them happy, everything that makes them them, and you're subjecting them to like lines of question to figure out what's wrong. That's not the way to do it. Also, not to mention the fact that cost of just healthcare in general, but especially the cost of just getting any kind of help. That 1 week without insurance, and this was at also, I guess, supposedly a cheap institution. For 1 week, it was going to be $5,000 without insurance. So about a little over $700 a day to sit there and do fuck all, to eat shit food, to basically have therapists poke and probe at you. I mean, if they can, that's if you even want to answer or participate. That's another thing, is if you don't participate in therapy, they hold that against you and they will extend your stay. So you have to talk. You're forcing someone to fucking talk. You are forcing them to get help. That is not the way to do it. Like, I don't know how to break it down. You need to ease someone into getting help. You do not force them into it. I mean, I guess, unless, of course, it is a very serious situation where you're talking about, like, drug addictions or something that's very serious, then, yeah, intervention is more than likely needed. But you're not just going to immediately throw someone into just getting help. You need to be gradual about it, and you need to be gentle about it. But, yeah, thankfully with insurance, I only had to pay $500. So a little over $70 a day to basically just have a room and food, shit food at that. But, you know, there are just so many issues going on in today's society that, you know, I feel like suicide should be a bigger deal than it is, especially even if you're working to death, because I feel like we as a society need to realize that our priorities are fucked. We are treating each other as disposable. We are pitted against one another from a very exploitative system. We hardly see each other as human anymore. We just see each other as a picture online, a number on a screen, and that's kind of frightening. You know, I could say more about the problems that are going on with society, but I feel like the alarming rise in suicide is an indication of where we're going as a society, where we're going as a species. I mean, for a world that's so connected, we are so disconnected from one another, we are so individualistic that it is unhealthy. And this is the result of that. This is the result of being hyper-individualistic. You carry so many burdens and so many problems on your shoulders, and the community knows that, other people know that, and they do the same thing, and they think that you're weak when you can't handle it anymore. You were never meant to handle it alone. None of us were. But for some reason, we live in a system that tells us to do it anyway. That's the problem. So, anyway, I think I've ranted enough. I mean, granted, I don't have scripts for these videos anyway, so I'm gonna go get some coffee, and I will talk to you guys later.